How's it going, guys? My name is Jared Ace and welcome back to MoneyMetEish. In May of 2021, ABinBev announced that they would be launching SABZenzeleKabili, a follow-on from the previous BEE scheme started by SAB Miller in 2010, SABZenzele. All of the advertising was very heavily reliant on the performance of the predecessor, SABZenzele, and I made a video before the IPO outlining the differences between the two schemes and why SZK, as it would later be listed, would never match the returns of SABZenzele. It was by far my best performing video, and since the share price at the time of recording is 66 Rand, I thought it would be a good idea to have a look and see if SAB is finally trading at fair value. Before we get started, please remember that if you would like to support MoneyMetEish and assist us in our mission of spreading financial education and assisting beginner investors, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a friend. In my original video, which you can watch by following the link below, I said a few things that turned out to be not so accurate with time. First, the share not only reached 100 Rand a share, but remained around 180 Rand a share for quite some time. I clearly underestimated the sheer amount of FOMO that there was behind the stock and just how effective the, in my opinion, misleading advertising campaign was. I have since been vindicated though, since the entire point of the first video was to point out that there was nothing supporting the type of growth that would be needed for the stock to match its predecessor. Secondly, Easy Equities sorted out the BEE share issue, and so the shares were, and still are, available on the platform. And lastly, but also the biggest mistake that I made, was saying that I would recommend the share to my family members who qualified if they could get it at 40 Rand a share. As I did more research in the days leading up to the listing, it became clear that the shares would not easily be obtained at the 40 Rand IPO price, and since the only reason I saw to buy the shares was to make the 30% gain and receive the dividend, I actually told my family members to stay as far away from the deal as humanly possible, especially since the price of the shares around the time they became available on Easy Equities was well over 80 Rand a share, and by that time it was ridiculously overpriced compared to its value. So how much is fair value for the stock? When it launched in May of last year, the fair value of the 5,105,685 ABinBev shares held by SAB, minus the vendor funding, gave you an NAV of roughly 60 Rand per share for the 40 million SABZenzeleKabili shares issued. Basically speaking, one share in SABZenzeleKabili equals 1/8 of a share in ABinBev. Great! One share of SAB is 66 Rand, and if you bought ABinBev directly, you would pay 122 Rand for the same 1/8 of a share. Seems like a pretty straightforward win for the BEE investor. But not so fast. The price of a single ABinBev share at the time of the launch was around 1,045 Rand, giving SZK a total value for the 5.1 million ABinBev shares of around 5.4 billion Rand. The total liabilities are 3 billion Rand, and the decline of the ABinBev share price from 1,045 to 976 Rand means that the company has lost 350 million Rands worth of value since the scheme was implemented, and it burns around 10 million Rand a month on operating costs, including debt repayments. And as such, the company is sitting on a loss per share at the time of reporting, which was the end of June 2021, of 4.95 Rand per share. That loss has since increased at the time of recording this video to a massive 8.64 Rand per share. The company had an operating shortfall, meaning that it didn't have enough money to cover their expenses, of 73 million rand ending June 2021, and in August they needed an additional loan of 12 million rand from SAB to cover their expenses. This loan principal and all the interest needs to be paid by the 7th of August 2023. SAB also issued an additional 117 preference shares at the price of 500,000 rand per share to raise the remaining money needed to bridge the gap. The total raised from the issuance of shares was 58,500,000 rand. So those are the company's expenses. Now, what about the income? How much money is SZK expected to make? ABinBev pays an annual dividend, meaning SZK will only get any revenue once a year. The most recent dividends paid by ABinBev were both 50 euro cents for 2020 and 2021. ABinBev's dividend started to decline in 2018 and had already halved from $4 per share in 2017 to $2 per share in 2019. That is a pre-pandemic decline. Assuming that the dividend remains at the 2021 level, SZK will get around 48 million rand or 30 million rand less than it spends in 6 months. That is all the revenue the company is able to generate for the year, and any other money that the company gets in is going to have to be raised through equity. Oh, and you need to deduct 20% dividend withholding tax, so the amount left over is then a measly 36 million rand to cover all of the debt and pay the dividend. 75% of the revenue is earmarked for debt repayment, meaning that a little over 9 million rand is available to pay the dividend, assuming the dividend gets paid at all, since there is a massive shortfall. If the dividend does get paid, shareholders can expect around 22 cents per share as their dividend. If you bought the share at 100 rand, as I suspect many people did, you would be sitting on a dividend yield of 0.002%, so effectively zero. Oh, and you also get taxed 20% dividend withholding tax on your tiny 22-cent dividend as well. The goodwill that ABinBev receives simply from operating the scheme exceeds the roughly $73 million they spent on the operations last year. But that $73 million does represent 5% of the total profits for the whole of Europe, Africa, and the Middle East combined. But this, like everything, can change. ABinBev can loan more money to SAB, further digging the hole, and I'm sure that other steps could be taken that I haven't thought of. SABZenzeleKabili could possibly sell a part of the holding to make up the shortfall, or they could issue more shares to increase the amount of equity, but this would further dilute current shareholders. So where is fair value? Since the company makes no money and operates at a loss, I would say not much. But since it has the underlying shares, the value of SZK is heavily dependent on those shares doing well. A rise in ABinBev equals a rise in the value of SZK. At the current share price, I see the NAV being around 48 rand per share, meaning that even with the share having fallen as much as it has in recent months, at 66 rand per share, it is still overvalued. If you want exposure to ABinBev, this is possibly the worst way to get it. Just buy the underlying assets, since even though you're paying double, you are buying the share minus the added debt, and your dividend is coming directly from ABinBev, so it isn't being diluted. The advertising and publicity around this scheme seems as open and honest to me as Nicola showing the Nicola one rolling down a hill. But that's just my opinion, and that's a discussion for another day. Thanks for watching, guys. That's just my 2 cents. As always, this is not financial advice and is only my opinion. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to MoneyMetEish to be updated when we upload new videos. Thanks again, and have a great day.